That's the essence of it right there.
I'll read it again.
Mm-hmm.
As we begin examining the details of the various phases of the emanation process, comprehending the gradual regressive fall, descent into physical humanity in real time. We're going to have a perfect understanding of this, comprehension of this, if we are going to ascend. The bold statement, but a true statement, an accurate statement. This is ground zero to ascension. And we've already begun to ascend, family, but a point, we've reached a ceiling where we have to transition and ascend even higher. And I'm going to tell you that once you grasp this, your ascension process, the rate, the quality of it will be supercharged. I guarantee you that. I was talking to my Isha yesterday several times about this. And, this is really, really, really critical that we have a working knowledge of how we emanated in here. Then everything, now see, the Big Bang, no matter what you talk about, it can fit within that framework. It can fit
Absolutely.
within that framework. So we look at, again, let me stop here because we're going to get into something I'm going to mention. And we can keep this um, in the forefront of our awareness. When we talk about fallen angels, everybody is familiar with that subject, correct? The fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
That whole subject matter is just another allegorical way to explain, family, how we descended into physical human form.
Yeah.
We are the fallen angel. We are Lucifer
Okay.
in that sense. Now, see, we are the Nephilim, the
Yes.
fallen.
Absolutely.
We are the giants, the men of renown, the giants in the earth that fail. All right. These are just different renditions of this gradual and regressive fall or descent into physical humanity in real time. Are you all with me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ancients give a very basic, uh, they draw a very basic picture of this descent, of this regressive fall. And the picture that you see, the figure that you see before you of this egg shaped oval, this oblong shaped object, and the different degrees of descension on the one side, moving from the center or the top of the circle, center or oval rather, center, and moving from left to right shows the descent. And then the bottom of the circle, the oval or oblong shape at the bottom in the center, as you move from right to left, shows the ascent. A very simple and brilliant way to describe this and to show it. But you'll see, just like there are multitudes of allegories that explain this, because now see, it was a pretty complex process, and it was not simple. But you can see all of these different graphs and ways to show it and explain it. All right,
Uh,
because it is we're not used to conceptualizing this.
Not at all.
This one says the evolution of matter. and it shows the seven planes, starting at the top, going down to the bottom. The first plane, which is the physical plane, where we are now, which means that we are at the very bottom of this particular graph that I have shown here. That's where we are now. So we could put a red arrow here, you know, right here. This is where we are, where it says the physical body. We've descended all the way down, and we are at or close to the very bottom. And again, we are in the process of ascending up from becoming uh, from becoming physical to less and less physical, and more spiritual, more energetic. When we first emanated in, we were more energetic, more spiritual, more astral, more etheric, and then with the fall or the regression, we became more and more physical, more and more human. Does it make sense?
Makes sense.
All right. So we talked about this aspect, now see, yesterday when we look at what is indicated as the circle above this oval. That's called the Param Atman. The Param Atman. It was talked about or viewed in the book Atomic Suicide, this descent from an energetic into material or physical. They define this Param Atman as what? The omnipresent vacuum zero. All right? The eternal omnipresent vacuum zero. That is us in our holistic divine aspect, the only true aspect about us. Physicality, materiality, or materialism, the material aspect, is illusory. It is false. There is no such thing as physical, really. And it is a convention, Nasik, of mind. It is a conception, pure conception of mind, of the ego and the superego. It is a hologram, a reproduction of a production, a reproduction of a production.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is consciousness, family, at rest. At rest. And we asked a question yesterday, how does consciousness at rest go into motion? How does energy at rest go into motion? I'm going to put that question out there. How does wholeness, energy at rest, set itself in motion? We asked this just yesterday, family, and it was answered yesterday. So we should know this.
Positive and negative.
There you go.
There you go.
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely correct.
By creating polarities, by creating duality. That is how motion is created. So this is why we have the representation of the divine consciousness here split into two. Figure 6 symbolizes the uncreated universe, the zero vacuum universe of rest, the zero vacuum universe of rest. Now remember, zero, when we begin to count, family, see, we don't do it in the West, in the modern West, or in modern times. But when the ancients counted, they always began at zero from a point of rest.
Right.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, family, is at the 7th day. Shabbat is actually the 8th day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just some type of cute saying. That's high science there.
Mm-hmm.
And you will not be able to figure out anything on an esoteric level until you understand the importance of zero or cipher or beginning at rest. That is how everything begins, from a point of rest, this zero vacuum universe, from which the objective, listen, electrical universe of motion emerges to manifest eternal life. By what, Nasi? By simulating it in cycles of
Right.
motion. Eternal life, in actuality, family, is rest. And we equate rest with what, Nasi? Death.
Just right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure do.
We say what? Rest in peace.
Sure do.
But rest, family, is the beginning and the end. See, we've only understood it from the first day to the 7th day, then you rest. That's
Right.
life and death. Now, see, that's life and death. That's not wholeness. Wholeness is beginning at rest and ending back right back at rest.
Right. Yeah.
And this is this idea, family, of the third being the fourth, and the fourth being the fifth, and the seventh being the eighth. We see this all throughout scriptures,
Right.
and we see it in the elemental world. Eternal life is simulated in cycles of motion. Simulated. It seems like birth to death or life to death, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it is actually from rest to back to rest. That's a full and complete cycle. That is completeness. That is totality. That is singularity. However you, that's wholeness.
Yeah.
But heretofore we have not recognized that because we've been too dualistic, predominantly dualistic in our thought and our perception. Can't get it right. We'll never achieve it. We'll never achieve it because the formula is off. Now, see, it's missing. So it's flawed. This is the process of emanation. No one starts there. Now, see, no one starts from the point of divinity.
Nope.
So how can you end there? You can't.
Impossible.
It's impossible. You're going to be missing a piece. And the key piece at that. You're not going to be able to figure this out. You're not going to get the big picture. It's always going to be incomplete.
Slika,
Yes.
can you say that again? What did you say the process of emanation was?
The process of emanation is the movement from rest to rest.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'll read it again. Figure 6 symbolizes the uncreated universe, the vacuum, the zero vacuum universe of rest. So that's the beginning. That's where we began at. That is us outside of the circle. Now see, on top of the circle, on top of the oval, on top of
Right.
the cycles of life. That and the little circle should indicate zero or the cycle at rest, in wholeness and completeness. And then once motion is activated by way of what? Polarity or duality, we began to now see descend into through the 7 phases into material, the material realms. It symbolizes the uncreated universe, the zero vacuum universe of rest, from which the objective electrical universe of motion emerges to manifest eternal life by simulating it in cycles of life. It's a simulation. Unless you understand that you are a divine being that emanated in here, now see, you're working with a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're working with
Right.
you working solely with diet and exercise and meditation and massage therapy and all this other stuff. That's not going to get you there. Cleansing. But unless until you understand that your true energetic nature is divine and holistic, you're still going to be trapped in a dualistic simulated process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're not saying that these things like diet and exercise are not beneficial, but again, not the most important thing.
Right.
In fact, now see, almost the least important thing.
Yeah. Well, we say that all the time. We say it's the spirit, we're always saying energy, is the key and all that, but not with understanding.
But yeah, we have to have knowledge, and we have to have knowledge of our true nature and our true beginnings. Now see, not in the Middle East or in Northeast Africa or even in the West. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Our beginnings, what?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of those physical,
Yes.
the
Yes.
physical circle or cycle.
Yes. Can't shows.
Unless you start at zero, unless you start at rest, you will never not see end up at rest. Not at the same place that you were before.
No.
This is God's omnipresent universe of idea and desire for the expression of idea by moving forms which symbolize idea. Only symbolize the idea. It's not the idea itself. This is the universe of the imaginer, that is the creator, who builds forms in the image of his imaging, for giving and re-giving of cyclic intervals, which unknowing man calls life and death. Unknowing man again calls life and death. But we trying to know. We trying to not be unknowing man. We spend
Yeah. Right.
we spend too much time in that designation now, see.
Yes. Yes. That's why cognition needs to be understood as opposed to, what we call thought,
That's correct.
Spend a lot of time thinking life or death, da 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 da. But when you know, then that's a whole nother, understanding of your relationship.
That's correct. Now, in terms of Daniel, the 12th chapter, which we went over yesterday, if you're still in an unknowing position, if you remain in an unknowing position, that is not knowing, truly knowing your divinity, your divine beginning as what? Consciousness at rest. You'll never open the seals, Nasi.
Yeah.
And if you are raised up, you're not going to be raised up for glory and eternal life. You're going to be raised up to everlasting shame, embarrassment, and disappointment. You're only going to go so far. And you can only go so far, Nasi, with human perception, human thought. It is limited by its very nature. That is why we say, hey, I'm only human. I'm fallible. I'm imperfect. But our beginnings, family, was perfect. Write that word down. Perfect. Our beginnings were perfect because we were at rest. We were whole. Now, when we emanated in here, when we first emanated in here regarding the, we're going to be talking about the first or the original man, which is nothing like we were. Do not imagine yourself. You are a tremendously, profoundly imperfect version of the ancestors Nasi that first emanated in here. They didn't look like you.
No.
They didn't think like you. They didn't
No.
act like you. They didn't behave like you. Now, see, this is the idea of an alien.
Yeah.
This is
Mm-hmm.
what
Yes.
they've misconstrued as an alien.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the form, Nasi, was more close to perfection than not. This is what we're talking about. The first, now, understand, this is the aberrant man's version of this. And he uses terms that I would never use, but we're going to use this just as a framework and as a point of reference. And I'm going to point out the things that are accurate. And we're going to decode this. He's talking about in term, they're using the term root race. It was no race. It was no way. You need two people to race, now see. And it wasn't but one people originally
Right.
that became diverse in their expression as they became more physical. Everything was more holistic. So it wasn't no such thing as a root race. You know, this was original man. And we use man, with the asterisks around it. Because we're going to find out that the original expression was both male and female, was androgynous.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
androgynous. The first root race and the early part of the second root race of protoplasmic original man were astral men. Now, we'll define that, the term astral, a little bit later, but keep it in mind. They were not truly human as we currently understand the term because they were mindless. Now, we spent a lot of time on this yesterday. The mind was not yet developed. No such thing, now see.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be hard, and it is hard for us to communicate with them because the majority of the majority of us are still what? Stuck in mind, trapped in mind.
Okay.
That is, they did not possess, nor were they possessed by a mind. They did not possess, nor were they possessed by a mind.
Eitai,
Yes.
the mind came in with the language, right?
No, no. Just follow me, brother. Follow me. Just follow me. This is perfectly laid out here. We defined this yesterday, and we're gonna define it again. So just walk with me here. The sons of mind, that is the manas putras, that's related to Manasseh, Manasseh putras, related to Manasseh in Hebrew. And this Manasseh putras means the sons of mind, sons of mind. In Hebrew, Manasseh means causing to forget. Follow me. Just follow me along with this. They did not possess, nor were they possessed by a mind. The sons of mind, the Manasaputra, the Manasa Putras, had not yet incarnated or been installed or downloaded in them, and thus had not yet infilled them, even in a small degree, with the, now they say divine flame, with the human faculty of self-conscious and they say intelligence. I'll say human perception and thought. That is, the human ego had not yet been developed in them. We have to look at this in the terms that our ancestors are providing us. As original man, listen, regressively emanated into a more physical, less astral, ethereal form, the mind ego, superego, developed. Language was a byproduct of this, but we must understand this in terms of emanation. As original man regressively emanated into a more physical, less astral, ethereal form, the mind, ego, superego, developed, not as a result of language. Language is a product of mind, not the other way around. We must understand everything in terms of emanation, moving from energetic to less energetic, from strength to weakness, from perfection to what? Imperfection. Are you all with me?
Which put you
Okay.
in duality.
More and more into duality. There was a point where we didn't even have vocal cords. You can look that's in the anthropologists have proven that vocal cords were a relatively late physical attribute and a result from the and resultant from the descent again. We used to, Nasi, be able to communicate telepathically,
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
non-verbally, without sound. Why? Because we were more energetic and holistic.
right.
And if everyone, Nasi, was intuitive, that meant everyone was seeing and experiencing the same thing. So you didn't have to communicate as much, did you?
Right.
No need
Okay.
to. As original man regressively emanated into a more physical, less astral and ethereal form, the mind, ego, superego developed. and we began to forget our divine origins. And we began to forget our divine origins. Bear with me. So when we look at this term Manasseh again, relative to this term that they give us, Manasseh Putras, the aspect of forgetting relative to our descent comes into play. Second aspect, thus, let me see. Okay, thus they were likewise immoral beings, not immoral. Thus they were likewise unmoral beings, not immoral, because the moral instinct had not yet awakened within them. That is, the moralistic human superego had not manifested in them yet. They were as unconscious in this respect as are the beasts. That is, they are mostly id-like. Now remember, we spent a lot of time for a reason on gaining an understanding, Nasik, of the id, ego, and the superego. And very clearly defining those terms. They were mostly id-like in their nature. Remember, the id is the unconscious, subconscious, beast-like aspect of personality. It is the divine you. We're going to get into that, in more and more detail, because we must understand these things on the terms that our ancestors are providing us with. And it's a simple way to understand it. Very simple. The superego controls our sense of right and wrong, good and evil, morality and guilt. It helps us what? Fit into society by getting us to act right, to act in socially acceptable ways.
Mm-hmm.
Superego's demands often oppose the is. It is what? The adversary to your divinity. Morality, acting right, meaning Nasi, acting logically, acting rationally, acting reasonably, is the
All of that.
adversary to you activating that divine energy in you. It is
Right.
anti-ascension.
Right. Hmm.
The id is the impulsive and unconscious part of our psyche, which responds directly and immediately to its instincts, meaning animal or beast faculty of intuitive perception and thought. And then I say, see the subtle serpent of Genesis 3 and 1. See, in that allegory, now see, the acceptable behavior, acting right, was not eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
But what did the serpent say? What did the divine part of us say? The divine part of us saying, hey, forget all them rules and regulations.
Right.
When you
Yeah.
eat of this, your eyes will be open and you will activate your divinity. But you
Mm-hmm.
can't do it following rules.
Right.
following arbitrary rules, Nasi, based on an illusion, based on a hologram, based on something that is not really real, not really there.
That illusion has got everybody. That's the deception.
That's the deception.
Okay. That's it.
We think we got to be good little boys and girls. And we're not promoting, we're talking about this from a holistic standpoint. We're not promoting anarchy.
Right.
We're not promoting going. Who would do that anyway? Which one of you would do that anyway? Not me.
You would in rest, in wholeness, you can't do that.
I can't do that. How I'm going to act against anything?
Right.
Impossible.
Absolutely not, see. The id is the impulsive and unconscious part of the psyche. So the instinctual id is the only real, genuine, and or divine aspect of original man, which you and I are. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Genesis 2:25. We're not talking about people running around no garden with no clothes on, family. That's Sunday school.
Come on, sirs.
That's basic.
Make it clear.
Let's break this down. Genesis 3:1. And the serpent was more subtle. That is the word Arum and Aram. Now see, our ancestors used three terms, Arum, Aram, and Aram, as a play of words. Arum, Aram, and Aram.
Right.
I'm going to show y'all a trick.
Yeah, I remember that.
When you say those words backwards, phonetically, you get the word Morah. Mara and Mura. What does the Hebrew word Mura mean?
Teacher.
It's the teacher. It's that inner teacher in you. That's the id.
Okay.
The serpent. Now think of a serpent. Does a serpent have clothes on?
Nope.
But as it grows, it sheds its skin.
Yes, it does.
You got to think. See, our ancestors, they don't think like us.
No.
So we have to learn of them. That is that inner teacher.
Opposite leg used to call it, that's something in you that should have clicked.
That's right. Arum, Aram, and Aram all connote nakedness. That is that shrewd, prudent part of yourself. That the guiding word is prudent here. And we'll look at the word prudent. All right. We'll look at the definition of that word, and I'll put it in the overall notes, family, for us. I just This will speak to you all. It means acting with or showing care and thought for the future. Let's look at another one. Characterized by, arising from, or showing prudence, such as marked by wisdom and judiciousness, shrewd in the management of practical affairs, marked by circumspection. So that is that aspect of us, Nasik, that is all of that. That is prudent. This is the serpent, the subtle serpent. And it says that he was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord have made. And we looked at yesterday that that word beast is the word chai, as in Yah chai.
Yeah.
Now this should really give us some pause. and now see, to question everything that we have been taught about the serpent being evil.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And now see, I told you that the very first inkling that I got a number of years ago, when I was in
right.
the university, the very first document that got me on this path that I did, the very first study was that the serpent did not lie.
Yeah, I remember.
The serpent did not lie. And it was these things that I was looking at, that how can we continue to consider the serpent as evil when the word beast is chai? And then you look at you take a broader picture now, see, although in the old world, in antiquity, the serpent and the dragon were never considered evil. This is a later development. This is a latter day development.
Yeah.
So that began to allow me to see and to perceive and to think with new eyes and with a new understanding, and to hear with new ears. So this word chai represents the beast element, corresponds to the id, or the divine element in us. That's why we say, now see, Yah chai. But see, in duality, you're thinking that Yah is something outside of yourself. I don't care what, I,
Right. Yes.
I don't care what your mouth say.
Yes. Okay, shows.
Because if you still are thinking that Yah is God and that the devil is evil, then you still stuck in duality.
Yes, big time.
You
Okay.
still thinking in terms of good and evil. You have not eaten from the tree of knowledge.
Yes.
You have not eaten from the tree of knowledge. Now, see, for a season it was forbidden to eat from it. To what? Access our divinity, activate our divinity. Why? Because we came here to fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why would we reverse? And the reason why, Nasik, it's difficult to understand this is because we've forgotten why we've come here. Manasseh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All caused us to forget.
Connected shows.
And we struggle with these things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you equating the devil with Yahweh? Of course.
Hey, tell me about it.
It's the same concept. Oh, you equating life with death? Of course. It's the same thing. Once Nasi begin from a position of rest, a position of wholeness. That's the starting point. And if you cannot articulate to me emanation relative to your beginnings, you still dualistic. I don't care what you say. You're still dualistic. Still trapped in dualistic thought and dualistic perception. Still just a human. and you will never perfect humanity. Never. The only thing that you can hope to do is to get back to divinity, to return to rest and wholeness.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. There's no other route, now see, but the route back. And if you were just a human, you just going back to something that was human, something that is imperfect, even if you get to the highest levels. Now see, of the most ancient civilization, you're still less than. You're still an imperfection. And guess what? Subject to fall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You have not solved the flaw. So you're just going to repeat it over again. You know what they call that? Reincarnation.
That's what they call it.
Yes.
Reincarnation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We talked about it, that this illusion, now see, as we talked about it, that it is just an image of imagining or giving and re-giving in cyclic intervals. What do you think reincarnation is?
Yeah.
You just hitting the reset button.
Yep.
And if you come back in here now, see, starting your count at 1, guess what? It's gonna be a day late and a dollar
Right.
and get
Right.
Yeah.
rinse and repeat. You're gonna get the message, rinse and repeat. And you're gonna be cycled back into, these cyclic intervals, trying now see in vain to solve life and death from the standpoint of illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on, we saw as we trace the etymology of this word Kai, family, that it was related to the word Kaya, Kaya, which has the connotation of living prosperously as well as living forever. And we talked about this this aspect of the manifestation of the id or divine energy, now see, within the material realm, corresponded to, causes, produces economic prosperity. Now see, a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but it is evident that it does. Shalom means wholeness in every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So we examine that even when, Martin Luther King Jr., he was controlled by that emancipationist version of the program, of, these two basic programs, and I see dualistic program. And he even
Right.
realized that when he was, he was getting ready to what? Realize an aspect of the emancipationist dream and goal of integration, that he knew that he was missing a key energetic aspect, the energetic divine aspect that would what? Create, that would do something economically, that would produce something economically. Now, I'm not saying he understood this Nasi consciously, but he understood it deeper within his soul.
Yeah.
This is why when they were on the threshold of achieving these things, that it said he was deeply troubled and,
Yes.
and agitated and
Mm-hmm.
preoccupied, because he knew that there was this economic component that was attached to ascension, and that he did not have it from an energetic standpoint. I've come upon something that disturbs me deeply, he said. We have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have, and I know that we will win, but I've come to believe that we're integrating into a burning house. He understood that and realized that the struggle for integration would ultimately become a struggle for economic life. And I think deep in his soul, Nasi, he knew that he was running on a false program.
Yeah.
Yes.
That he was running.
Yeah.
You got to look at things, family, from an energetic standpoint. We know some basics about this. And that our divine energy mandates that when it is what? Activated and produced within the physical realms, it will produce a correlative prosperity.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The religious mind, I know, does not want to hear that. No way does it want to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So tracing, etymologically tracing this letter Chi, that is related to the id, that is related to our divine essence, the only real, genuine, and or divine aspect of our being, we come upon the word Chava or Eve, representing, family, the ego aspect. It means to tell, declare, to show, to make known. The ego is the only aspect, now see, that along with the superego, that interacts with the hologram.
Uh-huh.
It is part of the hologram. It is part of the illusion. It is the byproduct of what? Manifesting deeper and deeper into the physical realms, into physical form. And Adam called his wife's name Eve or Chava because she was the mother of all living. And the tree of life is actually the tree of Chai. Now, we want to get into some of the more esoteric aspects of this that is going to lock this down and give us confirmation, strong confirmation, that what we have been discussing so far is the actual truth. And that our ancestors' hands, now see, their fingerprints is all over this.
All over.
Now, there was an aspect, and this is what they want to emphasize to us. The missing aspect, a lot of people now see have an understanding and a conception, a clear conception of the descent or the fall, right?
Right.
But they don't have an understanding of this inversion aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part.
Where things were turned inside out and reversed. And our ancestors showed me a little lesson about this that locks this into the framework and really confirms the framework that we've established. We see to the right the letter Chi, right?
Right.
And then I have verses. Verses means reverse. When you reverse it, it becomes the word ich, Chai, ich, or ich. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is why I said the ancestors, see, I'm not being a jerk by saying, listen to the things that our ancestors have provided us. I'm not just putting things in here now, see.
Right.
I'm not putting the pieces of the puzzle into the box. I'm showing you the pieces to the puzzle that the ancestors are showing me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking to me they're saying in the box is the id, the conception of an id, ego, and superego. Because we put that in the box in real time. The id, ego, and superego is not Carl Jung's. And it's not my choice. Are you all with me?
Mm-hmm.
The ancestors developed that conception because it's accurate. And they've given that to us right now in these latter days, saying what? Understand this fully as much as you
Yes.
can. The id represents the beast, what has become known at family as the devil, Satan, the adversary. But what is the id adversarial to? The superego part,
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
the false part of you,
right.
and the ego. So we must understand it from that standpoint, based on the what? The framework that we've established. This is a piece, Nasi, that is very essential, and I'm going to prove it to you. And they gave me like undeniable confirmation. The word chai, chet, yud, we've already gone through. And we said that that represents the id, right?
Right.
You reverse it, Nasik, and you get ich. It's a German word. It's a
Right.
German word. And the ancestors led Carl Jung. Now, you all remember how Carl Jung got all this knowledge. Do you all remember? We're going to have to go back over it. He got it based on what he called a document that he wrote called the Seven Sermons of the Dead. Guess who the dead were that spoke to him?
Had to have been the ancestors.
It was. Do y'all remember this? Let me go back over it. We're going to pause right here because y'all got to know it. You got to know this story now. We've gone over this before, but it was a long time ago. Let's refresh our memory. The Seven Sermons of the Dead. Septem Sermones ad Mortuos by Carl Gustav Jung, 1916. Is that an important date?
1916.
Now see, prior to the right before the Roaring Twenties began.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna understand why he called this the Seven Sermons of the Dead. In memories, dreams, reflections, Jung gives one account of how the Septem Sermones came to be written. The Sunday referred to below is probably Sunday, January 30th, 1916. So y'all think that these individuals are just, real smart individuals that come up with stuff on their own. See, y'all keep giving this young, infantile, aberrant man too much credit.
Yes. Right.
When I
Yes.
say everything has been controlled by our ancestors, you're going to see what I'm talking about. It began with a restlessness. This is Carl Jung's words. But I did not know what it meant or what they wanted of me. Had no idea. There was an ominous atmosphere all around me. I had the strange feeling that the air was filled with ghostly entities. Guess who was coming to dinner that night?
Yes. Their ancestors.
Then it was as if my whole house began to be haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me, family. This is how our ancestors work now. Around 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, the front doorbell rang, began ringing frantically, but there was no one in sight.
Mm.
It was some niggas, some nagas. I was sitting near the doorbell and not only heard it, but saw it moving. Now, understand, wasn't no electric doorbells like that. They had a
Right.
doorbell. You understand what I'm saying? That was
Mm-hmm.
from a spring or something that you pull down, and you would ring the doorbell that way. He was like, I was sitting near the doorbell and not only heard it, but saw it moving. We all simply stared at one another. The atmosphere was thick, believe me. Then I knew that something had to happen. Y'all Hebrews gonna hear something here from your ancestors, right from their mouths. The whole house was filled, as it were, was if there was a crowd present, crammed full of spirits. They were packed deep right up to the door, and the air was so thick that it was scarcely possible to breathe. As for me, as for myself, I was all aquiver with the question, for God's sake, what in the world is this? Then they cried out in chorus, we came back from Jerusalem, where we found not what we saw.
Wow.
Press
Wow.
press
Damn.
pause.
Whoa.
Man. Eitai.
Wow. Wow.
Look, don't look it up for yourself. Read it for yourself.
Mm.
Wow.
This is not Eitai putting something here before you.
Right.
Look it up yourself. First-hand confirmation of how he developed modern day. I don't know if it's psychiatry or psychology, but this is the basis of Western esoteric thought and knowledge. This is the manual that our ancestors put in the hands under the custody of African
Yes.
man, and we are coming back in possession of it. So it is not my choice to give you the id, the ego, and the superego. It's your ancestors that gave it to them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was the beginning of the Septum Ceremonies, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, page 190 to 191. A careful reading of the Red Book, including the abundant notes provided by the editor, Sanu Shamdasani, provides further contextual information. Shamdasani includes in the appendix a crucial journal entry from Jung's Black Book 5, dated 16th January 1916. The Red Book Appendix, Appendix C, page 370 to 371. Now, again, this is documented, and I see other attended books written to verify these things.
Right. Right.
And give a full understanding. In this entry, Jung's soul reveals to him the cosmological vision that will be more fully developed 2 weeks later in the 7 Sermons of the Dead. I'm going to hit pause right here, family, because this document is so large it buffers. and it takes time to free up. So we're going to pause right here and we're going to begin once this thing stops buffering. Okay, continuing on. During these weeks, Jung sketched in his journal the outlines of his first mandala, the Systema Munditosius, whatever, which forms a schema to the vision conveyed in the sermons. Now, I know that's the truth because that's what I just got through telling you all, how the ancestors give this to you. They give you a framework, a schema, right? Which forms the schema to the vision conveyed in the sermons. I know that's how they operate. The 7 sermons are recorded in journal entries in Black Book 6, dated 31 January to February 1916. Near the end of his life, Jung spoke to Anelia Jaffe about the Septem Sermones, the 7 sermons, and explained, listen, that the discussions with the dead in the 7 sermons formed the prelude to what he would subsequently communicate to the world as Jungian psychology, and that their content anticipated his later books. Quote, the years when I pursued the inner images were the most important time of my life. Everything else is derived from this. It began at that time, and the later details the later details hardly matter anymore. My entire life consisted in elaborating what had burst forth from the unconscious. That's the id energy where our ancestors are, and flooded me
Yeah.
like an enigmatic stream and threatened to break me. That was the stuff and material for more than only one life. Everything later was merely the outer classification, the scientific elaboration, putting it in terms of dualism, now see,
Yeah.
and the integration into life. But the numinous beginning, which contained everything, was then. He's giving all credit to the ancestors, to our ancestors. Are you all with me?
Gang.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, bear with me, family. So, when we get into looking at Chai versus Ich, we know that the ancestors, Nasi, were responsible for each of these 2 terms. And they just reversed one to show the relationship between Chai, which represents the id, and Ich, which represents the ego and the superego. It is the exact opposite. It is the adversary, the diametrical opposite, polar opposite. Chai and Ich, just reverse the 2. Chai versus Ich. Das Es versus das Ich, and Uber Ich. Superego, also superego, that part of the psyche which attempts to control the impulses of the id, to control your divinity, your divine aspect, to keep it what, Nasi? Locked within the subconscious so that you would not activate it. Don't you
Right.
understand? The white man ain't got nothing to do with that. It's your
No.
ancestors that locked you in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a translation of German, Über Ich, the opposite of Chai, family. See super and ego. The id, listen, we must understand this in the terms, family, that our ancestors gave this to us. Let's don't go beyond this. Get a clear and perfect understanding of what they gave you. Now, see,
Yes.
because the God flow is all through that.
Yes. Yes. Can shows.
The terms id, ego, and superego are not Freud's own. They are the Latinizations by his translators, James Strachey. Freud himself wrote of das Es, das Ich, and das Über-Ich. Ich, again, is Kai spelled backwards. Y'all think that these men are coming up with this on their own? Absolutely.
No, absolutely
Right.
not.
Our
No.
ancestors
No.
are showing their hand, their
Mm-hmm.
fingerprints, all on this, respectively, the it, the I, and the over I, or above, or the I above. Thus, to the German reader, Freud's original terms are more or less self-explanatory. So when we talk in terms of the id, in German, it is the S, das Es, and we get the word essence from it. It is our essence, our only true, genuine, and the divine aspect of us, family. The only original thing and genuine and true thing that we came here with.
Excellent, excellent.
Listen, late 14th century, essentia, respelled late 15th century on a French model. So they didn't redefine it, they just respelled it, family, 100 years later. From Latin, essentia, being, essence. This is why I talk in terms of being, all right? To translate Greek, ousia, being, essence. From essent, present participle stem of esse, to be. And we gonna understand when Moses asked the Lord God of the Bible, who shall I say when I go to free these people? Who should I say sent me? I
I am that I am.
Mm-hmm.
am that I am, and that word I am is the word Haya, not Chaya, Haya. Play on words, family.
Right.
Connecting all this together. To be, from the Sanskrit asmi or imi, yeshmi, eshmi. I am, eom, I am. It's talking about your divine essence. Man, wasn't no God up in the sky talking to Moses about
Mm-hmm.
how he can get himself free. That never happened.
Right.
No.
An internal conversation, if you understand it from wholeness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, here we go. It is originally the substance of the Trinity. What Trinity? Id, ego, superego.
Yeah.
That's the original Trinity. Now, see, we're going to find out that that is the Logos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're going to have another higher understanding of this, family. We need it in order to
Yes.
in the general sense, basic element of anything. That is our basic element. Our most fundamental element is divine. But if you don't understand the emanation process, you'll never get to that conclusion, Nasik, in any real way.
Right, Eitai.
Also defined as the ingredient which gives something its particular character. That is our essential character, our intrinsic nature and indispensable quality. You could not get rid of your divinity if you wanted to. The only thing you can do is ignore it and still and still now see play within the illusion of physicality and
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
so we're going to circle back now to another document that we did when we decoded Black Panther, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
And if you all recall, I was insistent on the fact that the Killmonger character was the real hero of the movie.
Yes.
Well, why? Because Nasik of inversion.
Yeah, we see it now.
Of inversion.
Okay.
The id engages in primary process thinking, which is primitive, illogical, irrational, that means non-rational, and fantasy oriented. This form of process thinking has no comprehension of objective reality, none whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
and is selfish and wishful in nature. See, we've been taught, conditioned, that these instinctual aspects, Nasik, of our behavior should be suppressed, should be
Yeah,
avoided at all costs.
yes,
And if indeed, if you are dualistic in your thinking and perception, you should avoid it.
Right.
If you're holistic, you should run toward those things because
Mm-hmm.
that is the divine aspect of your nature. So Killmonger's character, again, was Eric Stevens. And when you take those two initials, it's the S, das S, the id, or divine essence. Are you all with me?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
T'Challa, when you look at his name, TCH.
getting the echo each time.
Yeah, someone's mic is open. Please check your mics. Mute your phones, family. Mute your mics if you're not talking, please. T'Challa, TCH, is actually ICH, the ich, the ego. Are you all with me?
Yeah,
Okay.
Which guards, protects, and maintains the status quo. Guards against change. Isn't that what he did in the movie?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Eric Stevens represented what? Revolutionary change. What do they do in America when you try to get up and have revolutionary change? They either kill you physically, right?
Yeah.
Or
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
just like what they did with Obama and oppose him and killed him what? His image. And opposed him at every turn. We went over this. That he
Yes.
he ran on change. So if family, if you do not familiarize yourself with the things that the ancestors are giving us, putting back into our possession, if you ignore these, then you won't understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
You won't understand your history properly. The why, what, when, where, and how. You'll understand none of that. They have given us these things. And we put it, we got to be familiar with these things and recognize them where we see them and use them, Nasik, as a schema, as a framework to put the picture together, to put the pieces of the puzzle together so that we get a full view of the picture. And we can understand where we are now and how it is that we're going to return to the top. See, family, we keep choosing as our tools and as our impetus, things that are part of the what? Simulated matrix.
Yes.
Now see, a diet. Okay. But do you know that energetically that is so weak it's not even worth mentioning?
Yeah, Eitai.
Mm-hmm.
You're only getting 1% of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1 unit of energy for every 10. 10 for every no, yeah, 10 for, am I right? No, 1 unit per 100 units, correct? So we have to recognize and have a perfect recognition, family, of the true energetic nature of all things. And then we can choose wisely.
Yes.
The things that are going to help us to know what is essential, what is basic, and Malkiel, the difference between what is the most essential aspect and what is just a product of it, what is just a
Right.
reflection or a reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
We got to understand the difference between, in all things, what is simulated. The simulation, family, is always going to vibrate.
Mm-hmm.
It is always going to move like a moving picture. It is always going to have the aspect of vibration and movement. It is a reflect. What is causing the vibration? We got to get back to the cause. And the cause of all motion is our divinity, is consciousness, holism. So as we close, I'm going to give you some scriptures, family, that we're going to go over. It's going to be the next portion. And we have to begin to see these things with different eyes. We'll begin in Genesis 6 and 4. I'll have these together in the next set of notes. It'll be an addendum of what you got today.
Later.
We had to lead up to this. So when we look at Genesis 6:4, when it talks about the Nephilim, that and this fallen, so-called fallen race, or these fallen angels, or these fallen sons of God, this is just another way of allegorizing or symbolizing this prophetic fall into the realms of physicality, into human form, family. The giants in the earth refers to a phase that we were in the emanation process. And our condition and representation physically was much different, Nasi, than it is now.
Absolutely.
The same way with Isaiah, the 14th chapter, verses 9 through 18. And it talks about in verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Now, this is another aspect. They're using the term Lucifer, but the holistic understanding of this, that this is another way, Nasi, another point of view of our fall, of our descent, what? into the physical realm.
Right, Eitai.
The next scripture verse that we're going to use is Ezekiel 28, 6 through 14. And we're going to focus on that 14th verse. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. See, when we see this, we're going to break down this word, cherub. And I said it wrong. It's karub. Karub. The anointed karub that covereth. And I have set thee also. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. You were at rest at one point, family.
Mm-hmm.
Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You became active. Now see, walking up and down, to and fro, from one
Right.
polarity to the next,
Yes.
in the midst of the stones of fire. Now that says that we were, and we're going to find out that we were multidimensional at one
Mm-hmm.
point. We weren't just confined to the earth realm. Now see,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created until unrighteousness was found in thee, a flaw.
Yes.
And here's the classic picture of the angel Lucifer falling, being cast. I saw him fall as lightning from heaven.
Now, Eitai,
Uh-huh.
is there's no way you can say, if you understand any at all about the Bible, you cannot say this is the European man. There's no way you can say it.
No
Yes.
way.
Yes.
No way you can say this.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you stand there to him, then that means he was always above us.
That's
And now he doesn't feel he's still above us.
right. There's no way, now see, no way we can understand.
It has to be us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's perfect. You don't have to go no further. Perfect.
Eitai.
Yes, sir.
Also, that the last verse you just read,
Yes.
you could say thou was perfect in the ways from the day that thou was created
Right.
till instead of unrighteousness, because again that's that religious.
Yes.
You know,
Go right ahead. I know where you're going. Right.
you could put till morality was found in thee.
That's correct. That's it. Absolutely. I mean, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You were whole until the day you were emanated into the physical perfection that you call perfect.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll read this portion just as a prelude for tomorrow, and then we'll end, family. Many who hold occult and esoteric knowledge believe that the first two races of men were ethereal and phantom-like, ghost-like. Those are them ghosts that came, Nasi, to Carl Jung.
Yes.
Right.
And they were not, family, hear me now, necessarily dead.
No.
Come on,
No.
show.
These our ancestors are all around us that never emanated into physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Walk with me now.
Mm-hmm.
In their constitution and shape, it is said that the first Atlanteans were like this also, neither male nor female, androgynous,
Yes.
interdimensional beings, and the more time they spent on earth, the more dense their physical bodies became. Listen, requiring food, requiring a diet.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not perfection, Nasi, until eventually they became a physical form. So we're going to get into this, and we're going to get into the science of breathing, family. And so you all know this. You know this already. If you look at us as the us relative to our relationship with plants, and you know that there is something inverted about that relationship.
Yes.
The plants breathe in carbon dioxide that we breathe out.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon dioxide, family, is poisonous to us. The plants breathe that in and produce what? Oxygen.
Yeah.
And that is the basic of the energetic process in plants and animals. But I'm going to show y'all that's an inverted process. It's an inverted process. Trust me. It's natural, but it's not organic.
Mm-hmm.
In Mythical Monsters, C.H. Gould, a scientific volume, a few passages are quoted further on. See Mr. Stennett's in Occult World, the description of a cavern in the Himalayas filled with the relics of human and animal giant bones. Occult writings state that the Cyclops was a race of giants. Now remember, that goes back to the Nephilim, Genesis
Mm-hmm.
6. And before the final adjustment of the human organism, which became perfect and asymmetrical only in the fifth race, it did not become perfect, it became more imperfect. The early fourth race may have been three-eyed, without having necessarily a third eye in the middle of the brow, like the legendary Cyclops. It meant that the pineal gland was
Yes.
calcified and fully
Mm-hmm.
activated. There were four-armed human creatures in those early days of the male females, hermaphrodites, or androgynes, with one head yet three eyes. They could see before them and behind them. A kalpa later, after the separation of the sexes,
Mm-hmm.
men having fallen into matter, their spiritual vision became dim. They began to forget Manasa.
Mm-hmm.
They became Manasa Putra, the sons and daughters of mind. And the third eye commenced to lose its power. When the fourth race arrived, at its middle age, the inner vision had to be awakened and acquired by artificial stimulation, diet, meditation, exercise, breathing techniques. Are you all with me?
Yeah, Kane shows.
The process of which was known to old ages. The third eye likewise getting gradually petrified and soon disappeared. That is a result of the fall, the regressive aspect, family, of the emanation. The double face became one face, and the eye was drawn deep into the head and is buried under the hair. And understand, we didn't have hair like that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
During the activity of the inner man, During trances and spiritual visions, the eye swells and expands. The arhat sees and feels it and regulates his actions accordingly. So we're going to end right there, family. Open it up for questions and comments at this point.